Hey guys, Sirius Blackguy here, and welcome to part 3 of the rules of self-actualization. Last time we discussed a balanced victory and how to focus on it. When we interact with each other, 4 things can happen. 1. Both people benefit, generating a bond and continued interaction. 2. One person benefits at the other's expense. This can cause an eventual disconnect and limits future interactions. This is equivalent to blue pill men as well as purple pill power bottoms. 3. Everyone loses. This is generally when a person is backed into a corner with no other option. An example of this is when a person goes scorched earth in retaliation and ends up in jail. Number 4, no deal. No deal is simply walking away from a shitty deal and not playing the game. In essence, it's the basis of MGTOW and the ideology of the juice isn't worth the squeeze, thus walking away from the plantation. To quote Sun Tzu in The Art of War, one mark of a great soldier or a great man is that he fights on his own terms or fights not at all. But allow me to elaborate on this notion a bit further. Despite how appealing no deal is, we do have to interact on some level in our everyday lives. Whether it's friend or foe, you need to understand the person that you are dealing with. What are their needs and desires? What are their strengths and their weaknesses? Be sure to check your analysis when making observations. Remember that in all situations, there is person A's story, person B's story, and then there's the truth. Sometimes your best friend can be your worst enemy, and sometimes your biggest enemy can become your greatest ally. And when you begin to understand them, you can respond accordingly and navigate these social situations to further benefit you. To quote Sun Tzu once more, and it was also mentioned in the previous video, is to know your enemy and know yourself. So how do we go about understanding our allies and foes? Well, I've decided to break it down into 4 parts for you. Number 1, estimate or assess whether you agree or disagree with whatever statement or claim that's being made by the person in question. Number 2, investigate further by asking them questions. These questions will help you understand if your hypothesis was correct or if you were mistaken. In return, you want to give that person counsel based on your own wisdom and experience. Then seek to truly understand the situation. Make sense of the person's motives and behavior based on your own wisdom, knowledge, and experiences. And number 4, you want to refrain from going back to number 3 and giving counsel. This process of applying your wisdom and experience is an internal practice, not an external one. So at this point, keep your lips shut and allow them to have the last word. Remember, your goal here is not to win an argument or a discussion, but rather to understand the situation. Amongst your allies, this includes friends and foes. You can combine your strength as mentioned in part 1 of the rules of self-actualization. You can work independently as 2 independent individuals, companies, or enterprises to achieve something greater. And with the previous rule being fully utilized, you can move on to the next rule, fusion. Why do I call it fusion? Because it does more than improve the surface level of a social bond or contract. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's more like 1 + 1 = 3 or 5 or even 10. I'll give you 2 examples of this. In Dragon Ball Z, Goku and Vegeta does something called fusion. This is when both characters meld into one body, becoming Vegito. Now their power isn't simply added together. Using small numbers, if Goku was a 9 and Vegeta was an 8, Vegito would not be a 17. He would be more like a 25, because their synergy opens up layers of potential. I'll give you another example in the business world. When Disney made a deal to use Spider-Man in the Avengers MCU films, they conducted a synergistic fusion. Sony's character gets promotion via screen time and thus more incentive for merchandising. So not only is Spider-Man prevalent in his own movies, he is showcased in between his solo films as well. Spider-Man actor Tom Holland also gets multiple gigs. This has allowed him to be in 5 feature films in the span of 3 years. So many people and companies have benefited from this fusion. And so now you can see how and why it's important. Okay guys, we've made it to the final and arguably most important rule to self-actualization. Temperance and the sharpening of the blade. The most difficult thing for humans is the testing of the metal. How resilient a person can be determines if they have the fortitude and tenacity to fight through the growing pains that comes with change. For example, have you ever started a diet or a workout regimen? Do you still practice it? Or have you dropped it from your daily routine? Why do we tend to give up on things that matter most to us? Some would say, because it doesn't really matter to us. I would say they are half right. We give up on these things because we forget how truly important they are. Our temperance weakens and we forget to sharpen the blade. For example, Rule 3, prioritizing. Prioritizing is important when working out. Some people will choose to go out to a party instead of going to the gym. This person would prioritize external validation over their own health. So let us start our temperance and blade sharpening. Rule 1. Be proactive and not reactive. Focus on things you can do something about. Don't allow yourself to be misled or distracted from your morals and values. Number 2. Keeping the end game a priority. Understand your values and desires and ensure your actions are leading up to said goal. Prioritizing internal importance over external urgency is the foundation of prioritizing. Number 3, balancing victories. Always aim for interactions that benefit both parties in both business and in personal interactions. If the victory is balanced, both parties are happy and the relationship can continue and grow. However, don't let people take advantage of this kindness. Number 4, know your enemies and allies. Knowing people's motivations helps to understand if they are an ally or a foe and allows you the wisdom to respond accordingly. After understanding them and embodying the aforementioned rules, rule number 6 comes into play. Fusion. Interdependence and synergy allows transcendence to a level of capability that an individual could never achieve alone. And finally, we have arrived at temperance and sharpening the blade. This review will refresh your mind and spirit to ensure you are focused on your self-actualization. With that being said, this concludes MGTOW 101 Rules of Self-Actualization. As I said in the beginning, this information has proven useful for over 10 years of my life. I sincerely hope that it proves valuable in your life as well. Until next time, MGTOW brothers, live long and prosper.
Fellow Americans, today we declare our independence from not only meatbag women, but from having to convert American dollars to British pounds in order to buy love dolls. The Dollhouse is now international, with a new American franchise, DC Dollhouse. If you live in Europe, continue to do business with the dollhouse, but if you live in America, you can now go to DC Dollhouse where the dolls are priced in US dollars and measured in feet and inches. Now you can browse the dollhouse's selection of love dolls and enjoy the customer service that the dollhouse is known for, all without having to pay additional shipping or currency conversion fees. God bless the dollhouse, and God bless America. Click on the link in the description and get started today.